To begin, can you please state your name?
Elizabeth Manley.
Okay. And could you briefly explain the situation that led you to seek legal help?
I was in contract to purchase my first home, and it was brownstone. It's a brownstone up in Harlem, and it had tenants. So I went into contract. I had no idea that tenants would be an issue or anything like that, even though I'm a lawyer. And so I was telling a friend of mine that I was in contract to buy this house. So I was so excited, and but that there were tenants. And my friend said, "Oh my gosh, if you have tenants," he said, "get out." He said, "If you can't, get your money back immediately." And he said, "If you can't, then you need to contact Adam Leitman Bailey." And I said, "Oh," he said, "I would back out of it." He said, "But if you can't, you've got to contact this guy. He had helped me before, and that's what you should do." So I, of course, didn't do anything for a while, and as time was going by, I was having a very hard time actually getting a mortgage because it was listed as an SRO, and of course, who does financing for an SRO? So eventually I called the firm, and I set up an appointment. Adam met with me personally, and was extremely helpful. First, I realized how over my head I was, and I had no idea what this could have ballooned into. And luckily, he did give me a realistic picture of what could have possibly happened. And but then he said, the decision's yours. If you want to go forward with this, then we can represent you in your closing. He said, I even know some people who can help you maybe try and get the financing, and we'll deal with your tenants. So immediately he basically took away my problems, and I closed, and Guy represented me in my closing. And I was actually just telling Adam today that even as an attorney, and I've done closings for clients, it was extremely comforting to have an attorney next to me at my closing who I knew he had handled everything. I knew everything was ready to go, and particularly because there was tenants that were holding over, which was of course a new situation for me. And so the closing went great, no problem. And Adam helped me put me in contact with people to give me the financing. So that was great. Then as soon as we closed, we had a big meeting here at the office and to talk about the tenants and the steps to take with them. And it was, it was all new. And Adam gave me a lot of great advice about how, the tone I should take and the approach I should take. And it worked. So the first thing I did, I moved a friend of mine up there into the house immediately, which was Adam's recommendation. They said, you've got to lock up the house and make sure no one else gets in. So we did that. So at least the 4 tenants that I had were there. And then he said immediately, start telling them that they need to start looking for places, but that you're willing to work with them. And I did. I took a very forceful but kind tone. I said, look, I'm not going to be offering it for rent. I'm going to be renovating, and you need to be looking for a place. And so 2 people that were actually listed on the closing documents, they did enter into an agreement with me, and they did leave. And then one person, he left, and I actually used the firm to help me get the eviction. Once I served him his notice, he never came back again. So so the firm took me all through the steps, or handled the steps of taking it to court, getting the actual eviction, having the marshal come and evict the room, things I had of course never done before. And so they handled all that. And of course, then they gave me great advice. As I was having these clients leave, they, made sure that the documents that they were signing were ironclad, so that I wouldn't have any problems coming back. I mean, just even one story, I was driving home, and the guy my friend who I had living there, said, "There's a girl here." She said she just got out of prison, and she needs to get into a room. And I'm like, oh man, okay. So then I go, it's summertime, we're sitting on the front steps, and I know Adam had said, you can't let anyone in the house. If you let them in the house, then they become tenants, and then, you're never going to get rid of them. So she's sitting on my front steps crying, saying, "Oh, I just got out of prison, and all my stuff is here, and and she had been living with this guy who the previous owner had paid off. Of course, after I closed, he was hanging around, and I told him he had to leave. But I said, no. I said, Randolph Jones took all your money, or took all your belongings. I said, there's nothing up in that room. So she went on and on, crying. She had me talk to her social worker, and I called Carolyn here at the firm, and I'm like, what should I do? I said, I feel really bad. I mean, here she is. She lost everything. She said, everything's up in that room. And I said, in all honesty, we haven't thrown away everything in the room. And Carolyn said, no, do not let her in. Are you crazy? She said, you just cannot let her in, and tell her you're sorry and whatever. So I'm like, all right. And so I didn't let her in. Of course, I get home. I looked her up online. She got out of jail 3 years ago. Like, the whole thing was a scam, just because everyone in the neighborhood knew that I was new and I didn't know, and that I was, paying tenants. And, I mean, the whole thing was just to rip me off and to get her in the house. So, of course, if I wouldn't have called the firm, then things could have really been much, much, much worse. One of my tenants, he wanted to be paid in cash. I called Carolyn. I said, what do I do? And she said, well, film it. Document it, and I did. So when I paid him, I counted it all on film in front of him. I have the video of it. But it's been great. It's a beautiful house. It's 100 years old. We've found all kinds of old things and beautiful marble fireplaces. And it's going to actually be a real showcase. And I've made an incredible amount of money.
Oh, great. So ultimately, you were pleased with the services of this firm?
Oh, unbelievably pleased, and I would highly recommend it to anyone, even if they think they know what they're doing. There's no way that they know the intricacies of this law. It is such a, and of course, I'm from out of town originally, and when I would tell people, no, in an SRO, these people don't ever have to leave, and, all these other things, they would say, that doesn't make sense. I'd say, no, that is the law in New York, and there's no way you could be with anyone who isn't an expert in it like Adam. So yeah, I would highly recommend the firm.
Okay. Are there any last comments you would like to add?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.